All right, we are live on this week's edition of Halftime Hits, brought to you by Broadway Sports Media. You can check out all our great content at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. I am joined by my co-host of the Coach's Corner, Mr. Ryan Watson at Ryan on Broadway, and as always, I am Jonathan at JB on Broad. As we have been just totally yelling from the mountaintops about the Twitter issues. If you want to join in on the conversation, make sure you head over to the YouTube channel at Broadway Sports Media or on Facebook to join in the comments here. So Titans are up by a score. The best thing I can say is that both of these offenses are doing the best they can to manufacture points down the field. I mean, ultimately, neither of these teams are executing at a very high level. You can tell that both of these teams are some of the more injured teams in the NFL. Titans continue to suffer injuries, with Bud Dupree being out already, and then having Oladani being tentative at this point. So let's talk about what we're seeing on offense from the Titans. And Ryan, one thing I would say is that you're starting to see some semblance of a run game, but it does feel like they are really having to manufacture yards.
Yeah, let's start there with what you talked about the run game. As far as the offensive line, definitely getting to a point to where they're back at the very least, so they're at least all there to contribute. Another thing that's helped the running game out today, the first few runs of the game to Peterson, I know that they're trying to get Peterson going, and there's a lot out there. Does he have anything left? They were all run to the right, which is concerning because with Lawan back and Saffold over there, I think I'd be wanting to run my new running back to left. And sure enough, Foreman comes in, he gets his first few runs from to the left as well, and he seems to do a lot better. So they're doing that. But as you stated, they are looking to manufacture some things, and we don't mean that they're doing a trick play every single drive. There has been a couple little gimmick plays with the toss back flea flicker and the end around AJ Brown, but they're also scheming some things that trying to identify man, as you alluded to during before the halftime, and trying to get ways to get Marcus Johnson open across the middle on a couple of natural pick routes, rub routes, if you will. So looking to do some things just to get the offense ignited in this kind of state of flux they are. But the important thing is they're not abandoning the run game, which is good to see because that's what they do.
Yeah, and you talk about some of the rub routes. They've been very successful in identifying when the Saints are going to be running that man coverage, and you really start to see. You see, it's very noticeable when a team runs a bad pick play because you can tell a guy that runs out there and looks like he's trying to run a wind back block on a guy coming across the middle. So with Michael Pruitt and a couple of switch routes or switch releases at the line of scrimmage, you've really seen those natural rub routes come out there.
Right.
And it's really freed up Marcus Johnson on a couple of different plays. You got one with Jeff Swaim as well. So it's a really nice job of being able to identify the type of coverage there. And Tannehill, outside of the one bad pass that he threw that should have been interception in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing pretty well. He's had a couple of errant throws. One was an overthrow to AJ Brown, but ultimately he's identifying those concepts and reading the defense very well, putting the ball where it needs to be. He's not pinpoint, but ultimately you're going to be able to manufacture some openings with some schemes, and he's finding where that ball needs to go, and it's been really effective. And you talk about in the run game, Foreman, Peterson, they both have had some good runs. One thing that I did notice, though, is Foreman, a couple of times they've managed to split him out wide in a 5-wide formation. And if you're looking for some of the glass half full of ultimately where could this offense get better without a Derrick Henry, that's where you're looking at. Whenever you have a starting running back, which I think is going to be Foreman, is being able to actually split him out wide and run real pass concepts with him, which you've seen with Deontay Foreman, that's a plus. That's something this team hasn't had. They'll run some of those spread formations with McNichols there, but ultimately that's a new wrinkle in the bag of tricks.
Yeah, I see Dominic saying he thinks Ryan has just beat the hell up, and for a second I was like, wait, what? Do I look that bad today on camera?
That's just his face.
It's just my face, Dominic. Good grief. No, but again, a little gun shy there from Tannehill, I think is, not gun shy, but getting hit a little bit in these situations. Nate Davis early on misses a twist from the outside coming in and just annihilates Ryan Tannehill. So there's not a whole lot of sacks going on him, but he's getting hit quite a bit. And I hate to see that, especially on a day when you get your offensive line back. I will say this to the detractors for Taylor Lewan out there. He may not be what what he's getting paid. There's arguments made if he's going to get restructured, cut, all these things. That's what I'm talking about. It's a clear difference when he's on the field for what they have been putting out there this season. And he's back playing very well today. I've seen him do some really good things on the edge. There was a play action play early on where he was able to read, bend back around, and still get a block. Very athletic play from a tackle. So it's good to see him back. Just want the rest of the offensive line to please Play like you are the starting offensive line, Nate Davis. Please pick up some of these stunts for once. Don't let him right into Ryan Tannehill's chin, because he keeps doing that, then you're going to be down to Logan Woodside. Nobody wants that with what this offense looks like right now, with already being down Henry, being down Julio, and AJ hitting his head, kind of being very close to being out of the game there too on that sideline throw. So yeah, so please, offensive line, that's my big thing for halftime. Offensive line has to hold a little bit more, hold up a little more.
Yeah, so let's flip over to the defensive side and kind of talk about the Tennessee Tickle Monsters there. We'll rep it. That's fine. That's kind of on the fence on it, but I'm all in at this point. So if you are on board with the Tickle Monster nickname, we got some shirts at the store. If you head over to Broadway Sports Media or shop.broadwaysportsmedia.com.
If you don't like Tickle Monster, just call them TTM.
Yeah, if you don't like Tickle Monsters, just understand it's just a joke, and frankly, don't take your life so seriously. But what you're seeing from the defense is ultimately, I think they're playing extremely well, especially up front. Now, the one thing I will call out, losing Bud Dupree, Ola Adaney going out there, that is an area this team has not really dealt with injuries. They've been plagued by injuries all over, but that's one thing that they have been consistent on. So that's going to be something to monitor. How serious is the injury to Bud Dupree?
Right.
Because if that front four starts to drop, you're going to start telling on yourself a little bit about what do you have at the middle linebacker position? What do you have in that secondary that's been a little bit banged up, although they're back to full strength now. The one thing I will say, though, is the Saints game plan is not complicated. They are finding number 35, Mr. Chris Jackson, and they're going right at him every single play. They're not even fooling around going after a Christian Fulton, Kevin Byard. I mean, it is Chris Jackson all day, and until they prove that they can stop it, I don't see why they would change it, because it's been effective.
I also don't know why they're not running it at the Titans more. I don't, they are having some success. I know that Mark Johnson, I'm so sorry. I know that Mark Ingram is not just breaking off these long runs, but he's busting out consistently 3 to 4 yards, 6-yard gains. They're picking their spots by running the quarterback and certainly with Taysom Hill a little bit, but they're seeming to be not getting whatever they want in the run game, but it has been having some success. So I'm surprised they haven't stuck with that a little bit more. But again, outside of, we say that that Simeon's having a day or whatever, he's not. It's really outside of a couple plays. It was the long play over Jackson, and then it was the worst play fake in the history of play fakes for play action that Jackrabbit gets lost a little bit, thinking that his responsibility is blocking, and then he's open for a touchdown. It was such a slow developing play, but what sells it was him holding up the block and then breaking out. I mean, it was a good route. It was a fantastic route. Worst play action in the backfield because there was nowhere close, but what sold it was the route.
This is the DB coach in me here is, yes, it was a terrible play action fake in the backfield, but at the same time, if you're thinking your outside corner seeing much of what's going on in the backfield on that, you know that as well as I do. He ain't seeing that, but it looks bad whenever you see that, and then that's what happens. But
sure, which is why,
it's a great sell by the wide receiver there to get open. And sometimes, NFL players are going to make plays. And so a good play on them to dial that up, and a good sell by the wide receiver.
And outside those couple of plays, there hasn't been a whole lot of big success for the Saints offense. I guess is what I'm getting at. The defense is still getting to the quarterback. They're still making themselves felt. And the linebackers are thinking, linebackers is thin today. Linebackers are thin, and I think they're showing up and making some hits. Real quick, Saints are hitting today too. There's a whole lot of big boy hitting going on right now in this game.
Well, I mean, this is a real definitive game for both of these teams. The Titans have a chance. I mean, obviously they're the number 1 seed in the AFC right now, but I mean, this is that is, with all the injuries they have, still teetering on what could happen there. You go 8-2. And really, you're setting yourself up for success. And so knowing that the bye week with putting Julio Jones on IR, if you can get there and still piece together some wins and not drop games like this, then you're in great shape. So if you can get to that bye week at 2-1, 3-0 in a great shape, and trust me, they are capable of winning all 3 games with the schedule that they have. So
yeah, even with the injuries.
And then the Saints, they're obviously in a dogfight to just get into the playoffs. So, I mean, both these teams are going to be playing hard out here. I will say one thing, though. Towards the end of that half, you saw some of the worst quarterbacking I have ever seen from a Trevor Siemian, just from a situational awareness, knowing you have no timeouts right there. You cannot take 1 sack inbounds, let alone back-to-back sacks. I know the Tickle Monsters are coming for you, but the fact that you're that scared that you can't throw the ball away right there. And one of them, he looks back at Harold Landry.
Yeah.
And so he has time to look around behind him, see him come for him, and still does not throw the ball away. Just atrocious. If you want to know why you're a backup in the NFL and a fringe guy, that's why. That's frankly why. Yeah. And so those are just terrible situational awareness games. And the Saints have had a couple of plays. And look, Titans got lucky on a roughing the passer penalty. But ultimately, those are the kinds of plays when you're Sean Payton, you're going in there. If you lose this game, those are the kind of plays that you're going in and saying that's why you lost the game.
Yeah, and so it's not the Saints offense that I'm scared of moving forward here. They still could make some plays. I mean, obviously it's NFL players, and there are, even if you're a backup quarterback, you're capable of making throws. Otherwise, you wouldn't be putting those pads on a Sunday. People wouldn't be giving you a chance. So he's capable of making throws, but the decision making, to your point, hasn't been there. So there's not the offense that scares me the way the defense is playing right now for the Titans. But on offense, there has been some success, but it's felt a little bit like, and this is a good defense. Let's not throw this under the rug, but it feels like a tad like the Saints has given the Titans offense their success as opposed to the offense taking it. And I kind of want to see that turn around in the second half to where you go back and try to run Peterson left a little bit and try to get him going. Also get Foreman some more runs. Don't abandon the run game, but also let's try to get some, not deep, but some intermediate to deep shots to AJ Brown. Just see what you can do to pick your shots, be a little more aggressive down the field. Maybe don't do so much trick plays. I think Don pointed out not being quit being cute. I'm not going to disagree with that at all, but I would like to see them try to force it in a little bit to AJ on some ends or some outs, get him away from some of that coverage, and hopefully you can see what you can do. I mean, why not?
Yeah, so we're coming up on time here. The one thing I would say to look for me on offense is that you want to see, does that run game still have the same effect? Obviously, Derrick Henry, these are the type of games where you start to see those long runs break out, but you can still assert dominance with the run game by tiring a defense out, just by staying committed to it. And the Titans have a chance to do that even without Derrick Henry here, which will really open up the play action game. So interested to see how those runs and how they stay committed to it start to tire that Saints defense. But ultimately, Titans are in a good spot. So we'll go ahead and wrap up there as we get ready for the second half. Make sure you tune into the post-game show. It may just be myself and Ryan, but if you're just looking for pretty faces, we'll be there. So
or beat up faces, apparently.
Absolutely. Well, I'm the pretty face. You're the beat up face.
Sure, I'll take it.
Calling you out. So thank you for joining us. As always, tune into all of our shows, including the Coaches on Broad every week to see some play breakdowns. Check out our great articles at BroadwaySportsMedia.com, and make sure you check out the merchandise available at shop.BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the second half.
See ya.